They say you can hear a punch before you feel it. With Earnie Shavers, you didn't get that luxury. You woke up later, asking what hit you. Before the sold-out crowds and cameras, before the knockouts stacked like firewood, Shavers was a kid picking cotton under the southern sun, his hands turning to stone long before he ever put on gloves. Life wasn't kind. It didn't ease him in. It threw him into the heat early. The kind of heat that made boys into men too soon. One night, trouble wore white robes and burning crosses, and the Shavers family packed up and left everything behind. Just like that. They landed in Youngstown, Ohio. Earnie played football, ran track, worked at a factory. Big, strong, quiet. But nobody, not even him, knew he had thunder in his hands. That came later. He didn't start boxing until he was 22, late by most standards. But Shavers wasn't most men. In no time, he was laying people out, winning the national AAU title in 1969. 9 knockouts in a row. Fast, hard, no wasted motion. Just raw, frightening power. They called him the Black Destroyer. Not a nickname earned with hype, but with silence. The kind that falls over a crowd when a man drops like a curtain. 27 knockouts in a row, 20 of them in the first round. But for all the chaos he caused, his rise wasn't smooth. He lost his third pro fight, got knocked cold by a bigger man from West Germany, took a beating from Ron Stander, but he didn't fold. With Don King in his corner and a chip on his shoulder, Shavers climbed again. He knocked out Jimmy Ellis in one round. Ellis, a former world champ. It was like striking a match in a room full of gas. The name Earnie Shavers started to spread. People leaned in when he fought, not because of what he might do, but what he would do. But boxing gives nothing for free. Jerry Corey stopped him cold. Bob Stallings caught him off guard. Then came the war with Ron Lyle. A 6-round slugfest that could have ended at any second. Lyle got the better of him, but Shavers never blinked. He followed that with more pain, knocking out Howard Smith, surviving a monster brawl with Roy Williams that nearly ended him. And through it all, one truth began to form around Earnie Shavers. He didn't just hit hard. He hit like nobody else. You could feel in the room before the first punch landed. A strange stillness, like something big was coming. And it was. Earnie Shavers stepped into Madison Square Garden on September 29, 1977, not as a star, but as a threat. 54 wins, 52 knockouts, and fists that had made plenty of men forget what day it was. The man in front of him was Muhammad Ali. Older now, slower, but still standing as the king of boxing. Ali looked at the bald-headed Shavers and joked, calling him the acorn. But behind the laughs was something else, respect. The kind you only give to someone who can turn your lights out with one shot. This wasn't some late-night undercard. This was primetime television. Millions watching. Ali had his people in place. His trainer, Angelo Dundee, had someone tracking the judges' scores in real time. They weren't taking chances. They knew Shavers could end things before the judges ever mattered. The fight was anything but easy. In round 2, Shavers landed a heavy right that rocked Ali's world. Ali, ever the performer, acted hurt to trick him, but Earnie didn't bite all the way. The rounds rolled on, both men trading moments, trading rounds. By the 5th, Ali found his rhythm, but Shavers wasn't fading. He was just waiting. Everyone had questions about his stamina. They got their answer in round 13, when Shavers came alive like it was the first. In the 14th, he battered Ali with shots that left the champ stumbling. Before the final round, Dundee looked Ali in the eyes and said what had to be said. "You don't look so good. You better go out and take this round." Ali did. Barely. In the final 20 seconds, he summoned something deep and pushed back, even staggering Shavers. The judges gave Ali the win, but it didn't feel like a victory. Not really. Sports Illustrated splashed Ali's desperate hour across its cover. The Garden's matchmaker, Teddy Brenner, told Ali to hang it up. Even Ali's own doctor said it was time. Ali didn't listen, but he never forgot what Shavers did to him. He later said, "Earnie hit me so hard, it shook my kinfolk back in Africa." That wasn't just Ali being Ali. That was truth. Shavers didn't stop there. He faced Larry Holmes next in a title eliminator and lost on points after 12 rounds. But then came Ken Norton, a former champ, still dangerous. It didn't matter. Shavers took him out in the first round. Just like that. Boom. Done. No questions. That one earned him another shot at Holmes, this time for the world title. September 29th, 1979. 2 years to the day after the Ollie War. Holmes, slick and sharp, boxed well early. But in round 7, Shavers found the mark and dropped him hard. Holmes later said it was the hardest punch he ever took. He somehow got up, survived another close call in the 9th, and in round 11, with Shavers exhausted and taking shots, the referee waved it off. Shavers had come up short again, but he left a mark no one forgot. Not the champions, not the fans, not even the ones who beat him. After the Holmes rematch, Earnie Shavers had nothing left to prove. He'd faced the best, dropped the best, and terrified just about everyone in between. But boxers rarely walk away when the crowd still remembers their name. Shavers had undergone surgery for a detached retina. Back then, that kind of injury was usually the end. He wasn't fully healed when he stepped into the ring with Randall Tex Cobb in 1980. Cobb wasn't slick, but he was tough and kept coming. It was a wild brawl, and Shavers, no longer the same, got stopped in round 8. Still, he kept coming back. In 1982, he faced Joe Bugner, who was also trying to revive his career. Bugner was dropped in the first and stopped in the second. Proof that Shavers' right hand still had bite. But the comeback didn't stick. The body was slowing down. The eye never fully healed. And in a sport where timing is everything, the years were no longer on his side. Many thought he should have called it a day after an upset loss to Bernardo Mercado. But Shavers wasn't wired that way. He returned again in 1987 for 1 fight, then once more in 1995 for 2 more. The last ended in a second-round knockout loss to Brian Yates. That was it. He was done, for good. His final record read like a warning. 76 wins, 70 knockouts. Of those, 52 came in the first 3 rounds. 23 in the very first. If he touched you clean, it didn't matter how strong your chin was. You were going down. Fighters like Jimmy Ellis and Joe Bugner, both known for being hard to hurt, got folded by uppercuts. But Shavers wasn't just wild power. He could box when he had to. Once, with a busted right hand, he out-jabbed slickster Henry Clark for 10 rounds and took a decision. But his chin, his one real weakness, was always there. That, and the fact that he came up in a golden age of heavyweights, where champions like Ollie, Holmes, and Norton set an almost unreachable bar. Some men leave behind trophies. Others leave behind stories whispered in gyms, bars, and family kitchens long after they're gone. Earnie Shavers did both. He didn't walk around telling people how hard he could punch. He didn't have to. His fists spoke for him. Early, often, and loud. But outside the ring, the man who dropped legends and made champions wobble was someone else entirely. Soft-spoken, loyal, a family man with a quiet grin and a love for simple things. He married his high school sweetheart, Laverne Payne. Together, they raised 5 daughters: Tamara, Cynthia, Catherine, Carla, and Amy. Life wasn't always neat, but it was full. Shavers also had 4 more daughters and a son from other chapters in his life. The house, full of laughter, arguments, and love from 24 grandkids and 4 great-grandchildren who probably had no idea just how fierce their grandfather once was. Though his punches were known worldwide, Earnie found peace in the small corners of life. He showed up on Irish TV, chatting with Ron Lyle about the brutal war they'd shared just weeks earlier. 2 old warriors remembering when they tried to knock each other's heads off. He became a regular at Roddy Boland's pub in Dublin, swapping fight tales over pints of Guinness. His signed photo still hangs on the wall there. Earnie, smiling, drink in hand, like a man who knew how to enjoy the calm after the storm. His later years weren't filled with spotlights or fanfare. They were about family, ministry, a few quiet gigs in England, shaking hands and watching over people as head of security. He spoke at schools, shared stories, and reminded young folks that choices matter. He never stopped giving, even after the gloves were hung up for good. On September 1st, 2022, at his daughter's home in Virginia, Earnie Shavers passed away after a short illness. He was 78. There was no big send-off, just the quiet closing of a chapter that had already left its mark. No, he never became world champion, but he became something else, a man whose name still causes a pause. Not just because of the power he had in his fists, but the life he lived once those fists were finally still. He didn't need a crown to be remembered. Earnie Shavers lived the kind of life that couldn't be measured by belts or titles. He left his mark in the ring, with thunder in his hands, and outside it, with quiet strength and a full heart. Those who fought him never forgot the power. Those who knew him never forgot the man. His story wasn't perfect, but it was real, full of hits, misses, and everything in between. In a sport built on violence, he showed grace. In a world chasing fame, he chose meaning. And in the end, that's what lasts. Earnie Shavers didn't just throw punches. He lived a life that hit home.